I'm what I like to call an accidental leader because I wasn't born or bred to do great things. People didn't look at me when I was growing up and say, man, that kid, he's going to go do some great things someday. I barely graduated high school and I stumbled my way into this small community college in West Central Minnesota. And after the first week, I was already skipping classes. As far as college was concerned, I think it's safe to say I was headed nowhere pretty fast. But all of our lives changed that Tuesday in September. And as I watched on TV, I felt the same feelings everyone felt: helplessness, sorrow, and anger. So 2 days after the attacks of 9/11, I dropped out of college and I joined the Army. And I served as a paratrooper for nearly 7 years in the historic 173rd Airborne Brigade, based out of Vicenza, Italy. I went to Iraq for 12 months, I went to Afghanistan for 12 months, and then I went back to Afghanistan again for 15 months on my last tour. And I want to share one story with you from my military experience that has greatly impacted my life. On June 8th, 2005, I was operating out of a small forward operating base on the Pakistani border. Our platoon had 2 artillery sections that were at this location, and we served as fire support for a team of special forces, soldiers, and some Navy SEALs that were operating in the area. On this particular morning, my section was designated as the hot gun, which meant we had to be by the radio. We had to be prepared to return fire if we came under attack. We had a helicopter coming in to resupply us with some ammunition, so the other section had to go download those supplies and ammunition from the helicopter. Well, I was backfilling a position with that other section. They had a sergeant leaving to go on R&R. So as soon as I heard the sound of the helicopter approaching, I hopped in a Humvee with my buddy Luke. And just as we were about to make our way out to the landing zone, my soldier Hernandez from my section hopped in the back. Now, he wasn't supposed to be there. So I turned around and I was about to yell at him to get out. But I thought for a second, you know what? I value that kind of work ethic. If he wants to come help the team and lift some heavy boxes, I know that our section will be fine without him and me. But as I was about to turn around, I noticed that he didn't have his helmet on. And so I literally opened my mouth, but I realized that I didn't have mine on either. It's kind of hard for me to say something if I'm not doing the right thing. We got out to the landing zone, and as the helicopter landed, a group of 10 of us stepped to the side of the aircraft so they could remove the machine gun from the ramp. The rotor blades were turning. We couldn't hear each other. It was hot. It was kicking up sand and little pieces of rock. My platoon sergeant handed me a piece of paper with some serial numbers to items we were expecting, basically telling me that it was my responsibility to make sure we got those items. So I grabbed that piece of paper and I turned my back to the group so I could ground guide Luke in the Humvee so I could just get him a little bit closer to the back of the helicopter. And the next thing I remember, it was bam! I was laying on the ground. I had no idea what happened. I looked up and there was bodies and blood everywhere. I initially thought maybe an engine on the back of the helicopter had exploded, but the helicopter powered down and I heard that very distinct whistle of an incoming 107 millimeter rocket. So I got up and I dove underneath the Humvee for cover as rockets impacted all around. I quickly put it together that it was a rocket that landed next to us that had knocked me down. As the barrage ended, I crawled out from underneath that Humvee and started making my way to the soldiers that were still on the ground. And a Marine that was on our base training Afghan National Army soldiers had yelled to me that I'd been hit. Up until that point, I hadn't felt any pain. And I turned my head and I looked at the back of my uniform and it was shredded and blood was starting to pour out. And it was at that moment that the pain hit me. The other soldiers quickly triaged us and brought us in whatever type of vehicle they could find back into this small clinic that was ran by an Afghan doctor and treated locals that was within our base. Now, my wounds were very minor compared to everybody else. I was peppered in the back with shrapnel. Luke bandaged me up and I was okay. I started walking around to see who else was hurt. And that's where I saw Sergeant Michael Kelly, a supply sergeant, laying on this elevated stretcher off the ground. And the local Afghan doctor, who was about 5 feet 2 inches tall, standing on this red milk crate performing CPR. And I walked around, and it could have been more than 45 seconds. I came back, and they had Michael on the ground and were zipping him up into a body bag. And I made my way into this small room in the back of the clinic where I saw my soldier, Hernandez, unconscious, laying on a table, his head bandaged, and a couple people working on him. But I could see his chest rise and fall, so I knew that he's breathing. And I grabbed his hand and I whispered, "Hey man, everything's going to be okay." And medevac helicopters arrived and brought us to forward surgical teams throughout the country. They removed several pieces of shrapnel from my back, left a few souvenirs in there for me, stitched me up, and sent me back to the landing zone for another helicopter ride to Bagram Airfield for some more advanced medical care. And as I was waiting there, my commander approached to see how I was doing. I told him I was going to be just fine. And I asked him how Hernandez was. And to my relief, he said he was going to be okay. And he turned to walk away. And he got about 4 or 5 steps. And he turned around. And tears were coming down both of his cheeks. And he said, "I'm sorry that I lied to you. Hernandez didn't make it." My knees got weak and I hit the ground as my commander embraced me. Hernandez died because I wasn't doing the right thing. He died because I didn't have the courage to speak up and to say something. And I beat myself up for a long time after that. I tried to drink it away. I tried to wash it away with pills. Of course, none of that's going to work. And those only served as accelerants for other challenges I was already facing. Thankfully, over time, I've realized that I can take that story and I can share it with others to influence them and to inspire them to be better leaders. I will not let the sacrifices of Emmanuel and Michael go without others knowing about it. I'm honored to have served with the soldiers that I served with. And I'm thankful that I'm still here today to be able to share those stories with others.